10% of British adults now take antidepressants, with a 55% rise in prescriptions in the past decade. But what about the companies that are profiting from prescription pills? And why are some spending more on wining and dining the doctors that push the pills than researching drugs that often have side effects worse than the ailment they are curing? Peter Flemix has just made the documentary A Beautiful Pharma Mind, looking at the contradictions in the treatment of drug dealers and drug companies, and he joins me now. Peter, welcome to Going Underground. Your new documentary talks a lot about what seems to be corruption in the pharmaceutical industry. The rise in drug prescribing, not any testament to better access to medicine then?
Well, not exactly, no. I mean, what we're basically having right now is a perverse system. We're entering a system right now that is actually harming people it's supposed to protect, and it's giving benefits to the ones that are causing the harm. So there is something definitely very wrong here, and there's something wrong at the core of the system.
And there's been a massive increase in prescribing in Britain.
Massively, yeah. Doctors are prescribing pills very, very fast these days. So what's actually happening is that in the last 15 years, we saw the pharmaceutical industry make 200 billion profit over those years. So that's been a massive increase. Because actually what's happening is that what before was seen as just a normal light problem that you might have, like you're feeling stressed or you're not sleeping very well, right now is being treated right away with pills. You know, take antidepressives, take sleeping pills, take pills to feel better for any reason. And one of the causes for this, one of the reasons that this is happening, is because the regulators are making the whole set of issues that you can have larger and larger. So basically normal human conditions are being medicated very fast.
I want to get onto the sort of collusion, but of course the pharmaceutical companies always say, this is, and some doctors might say, this is the byproduct of an aging population. Or is it really that NHS doctors are in effect being bribed?
Well, of course they say that. That's what they have to say to defend themselves. But it's very clear, we've got all the evidence that doctors are being influenced and sometimes even bribed, as you say. I mean, and this happens in many ways. You know, there is a soft way, just inviting them to education days or giving them tickets for concerts.
Fancy restaurants.
Fancy restaurants. You know, in the UK, you got to think about £50 million per year that are being spent on lobbying. And this lobbying has only one purpose, is getting you and me to take more medicines in the end. So there is no other incentive than that. But there is also more direct ways. There is doctors being paid to write articles, scientists being paid to write articles. There is patients group being set up just to, you know, look like they're actually rooting for a cause to have a new medicine. And you think, hey, these people want that medicine, that should be a good medicine. Well, in fact, it's the pharmaceutical companies that are behind the whole setup of these so-called patient groups.
So we're not just getting more depressed. I mean, if the prescribing of antidepressants is up by 7.2% to 57.1 million prescriptions, this is, you don't think that it's because people are getting more depressed at the moment?
No, I don't. No, I don't see why we should suddenly be so much more depressed than we used to be in the past. I don't think our human condition is changing a lot. I think the way we are treating it is changing a lot. Right now, we're just using pills to be able, or to fight these so-called depressions. And you have to realize that, you know, it's good that these medicines exist, antidepressive medicines, because they work very well when you have heavy psychiatric issues. But they're being prescribed for the medium and even mild symptoms. And that's really where we're crossing a line, because it's easy to take them, but it's not so easy to taper off them. They say it's easy to taper off them.
In massive court actions, like for instance against Roaccutane, the anti-acne drug,
right,
the anti-malarials, secrecy behind these big, massive pharmaceutical companies is a huge issue. How did you go about making a documentary about companies, which involve companies, that are so secretive?
Well, they're secretive about their behavior, but luckily there's always the occasional person that wants to talk about what's really happening on the inside. There's always leakers or whistleblowers. And thanks to their information, we've been able to make a pretty clear view of what's actually happening. I mean, it's interesting you mentioned the Lariam case. This, you know, the
anti-malarials.
Yeah,
Roche's.
You know, the UK military is using them, and actually it's mandatory for the soldiers abroad. So while, in fact, right now you and me are being advised to not take that Lariam anymore, but use another drug, UK soldiers have to use it. And right now there's already 1,000, more or less like 1,000 UK soldiers suffering from psychosis and heavy, you know, side effects from taking this drug. It's actually, this drug was invented by the US military, and they've actually banned it right now. They stopped using it after a US soldier shot 16 people in Afghanistan for no reason whatsoever. That was the drop for them to say, okay, let's ban this drug. But in the UK, it's not only being used for soldiers, it's mandatory. And that's a disgrace.
And you even mentioned drugs involved in, say, the recent appalling tragedy in South Carolina. I mean, we know there's racism, endemic racism in the United States, but well, drugs added on to this.
That's also a topic that's not been discussed enough, that if you look at the mass shootings that are mostly in the US, almost all these cases involve young males that are using some form of prescribed drug. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm saying that it's directly a cause because they take this drug, they do it. But it is known that some of the side effects of various of these medicines are extremely violent behavior. It can turn somebody that was a pretty normal dude suddenly into somebody that went extremely violent. I mean, the Columbine shootings, the same thing. These boys were both using these antidepressant drugs, and Sandy Hook as well. There are many, and I think it's something as a society we should start to look into, and not giving, in this case, young kids these medicines, and not looking at the possible harmful side effects for them and the society.
Peter Vlemings, thank you.
You're welcome.